Ukraine defense in the front line is collapsing. You see, this is not the first time that I'm reporting this. Those of you who follow this channel, I've reported this multiple times. And thank God that, these media outlets are now confirming what I've been telling you guys. I'm not paid by the West, neither am I paid by Russia. So I have no interest to lie to you guys. I am completely independent. And I continue to bring you guys independent view of this war. I don't want to be caught up in this propaganda war. The point is, whatever the mainstream media continue to report, we can all see that these guys are not telling the whole world the truth. So, when you look in Ukraine recently, it's kind of like there is no air defense in Ukraine now. Missiles continue to rain on Ukraine. They can do nothing about it. When you look across the front, you can see that in recent days, the Russians are advancing on the front lines. Continuously, they continue to capture more and more territory. The point is, the West cannot feed Ukraine what they need. They cannot give the Ukrainians the weapons they need to fight against the Russians. They can continue to lie. They can continue to spread propaganda. But the reality is, after the war, we will all see the reality. Even today, Special Aid to Zelensky came out and said that Ukraine will need around 10 million migrants to fill in the gap after, the end of the war. Why do they need around 10 million migrants? If indeed they are unaliving more Russians, because they've told us that they are winning, they are unaliving more Russian soldiers. So I don't think it makes sense today for Zelensky aid to tell us that they need around 10 million migrants after the war ends to fill in the gap. The fact of the matter is, millions are gone. I don't want to... You know how these platforms behave. Millions are unalive. Let me use this word. Millions are unalived. Millions have fled the country. The fact of the matter is, this war is bigger than whatever they tell you guys. That is the reality. According to Financial Times, United States is considering sending in between 20 to 50 Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. Exactly what I've been telling you guys on this platform, that even if United States will send these Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, they don't have a lot of Tomahawk missiles in stockpile. They can only send a few. If you remember this, let me know down in the comment section. I'm kind of like a prophet now. I predicted this long before even Financial Times reported this. Now, I want to make some correction, about the video I posted yesterday. In yesterday's update, I told you guys that according to Dmitry Medvedev, when these Tomahawk missiles are launched, when they are in air, radars cannot detect in between, these Tomahawk missiles and nuclear weapons. I was supposed to explain deeper. I think some people became confused, and I want to make this correction now. You see, according to Medvedev, when these missiles are launched, we have nuclear version of these Tomahawk missiles, and we have conventional. So when you launch these Tomahawk missiles, when they are in mid-air, it is impossible to detect whether it is nuclear version or it is conventional version. Hope you can hear the sound of the bells again. These bells, whenever I'm recording video at this time, they continue to interrupt me all the time. I don't know why, but that is nature, and sometimes I love it. I believe this is not distracting you guys, right? Hit on the like button, is very, very important to me, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Today, Slav also posted an article explaining into details why these Tomahawk missiles are not going to make any big difference on the battlefield, because anybody who has followed this war from day one, these Tomahawk missiles are not different from HIMARS. They are not different from the British Shadow Storm missiles. They made a whole lot of noise about it the same way when it was delivered. What happened? Nothing, right? They spoke a lot about the F-16s. They gave them the F-16s. Here we are. What has changed on the battlefield? The same thing happened to America. What do we call it? I've forgotten the M1 Abraham tanks. Yes, this M1 Abraham tanks, they made a whole lot of noise about it. And let me remind you guys this. There is no way that America is going to give new version of this Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, because they are afraid that this technology might fall in the hands of the Russians. So they will be very, very skeptical to give Ukraine their new technology. So obviously they are going to give these Ukrainians the old version of the Tomahawk missiles. That is what I see happening. And you know, the main point here is this Tomahawk missile system is not going to make any much difference. Military aid to Ukraine has decreased completely in recent months. The whole purpose of the West was to stress Russia in attrition war, was to burn Russia out so that Russia will use their weapons completely, so that Russia will have nothing left. But they miscalculated the might of Russian military completely. They miscalculated their economy. So that is why in the beginning of the war, they decided to impose a lot of sanctions on Russia to make sure that the Russians couldn't, you know, build up their military. Unfortunately for them, the opposite rather happened. Clearly, today you can see Western economies collapsing. You can see that even military aid to Ukraine has decreased completely. The point is, it is not intentional. The main point is they've given, you know, whatever they have to the Ukrainians. And still, the Russians are still standing on their feet. And that has become a major problem for the, you know, the West. I don't know this old man. If you know this old man, let me know down in the comment section. But what I know for a fact is he is an European politician, former European politician, something like that. And he's making a lot of sense. According to this old man, the West is basically using Ukraine as a launch pad. They are building up the Ukrainian military against the Russians. And he's saying some things that I have said multiple times on this platform, that Ukraine army today is bigger, is more stronger than any army in Europe today. The only country in Europe today that have a better army more than the Ukrainians is the Russians. So those who continue to talk a lot of nonsense in the system about the Ukrainian army, they just don't understand how big and how powerful the Ukrainian army is. But the whole point is, Russia's main goal in this war was not to go around capturing territories. In order to understand this war, we still have to go back to somewhere 2022, when Putin gave a speech, or when Putin spoke before the Russian army went into Ukraine. Russia's main goal was not to go around capturing territories. Russia's main goal was to demilitarize Ukraine and denatify Ukraine. And I don't know how, you know, those who continue to talk about Russian army want the Russians to achieve that within a space of 2 or 3 months. By the way, Russia or Putin never said it anywhere that he was going to capture Ukraine in 3 days. This is pure propaganda by the mainstream media that Putin said he was going to capture Ukraine in 3 days. I've challenged, you know, people multiple times, right from 2022, that if anybody can prove any video of Vladimir Putin saying that he is going to take Ukraine in 3 days in 2022 special military operation, I'm still waiting for you. This was a statement that Putin made back in 2014, and Putin was 100% right that he could take Kiev back in 2014 in 3 days, because Ukraine army was weak, which even Western politicians, Angela Merkel, even former Ukraine president, also confirms this, that Ukraine army was completely weak back in 2014, and that is why they decided to agree to the Minsk II and Minsk I agreement, just to give Ukraine time to rebuild back their army. So this is pure propaganda that, you know, you guys continue to hear in the system about Putin saying he was going to take Ukraine in 3 days and he couldn't take it in 3 days. Putin never said it anywhere. And I still challenge anybody who is watching me, if you can prove, I am ready to delete my channel and stop creating videos. I mean, the lies in the system, I mean, is too much. It is not fair. Once again, if you know this old man, let me know down in the comment section. According to him, today, without the Americans, the West cannot defend against themselves. They have nothing to defend against themselves if not for the Americans. And after this repeatedly, that look at the West, around 500 million in population, depend on Americans who are just 300 million, around 300 million in population. So they are asking the Americans who are 300 million to defend a population of over 500 million against Russia. with a population of just around 150 or 160 million. How did the West get here? So this war, I believe that it is a big reminder to the West about their dependence on Uncle Sam, that they need to do something about it, because it has made them completely weak today. If they are to fight against the Russians today, trust me, if they combined everything, they cannot defeat the Russians. It is not going to be different from, the Napoleon invasion. Commander of Ukrainian 3rd Army Corps of the Ukrainian Armed Forces claim that Ukraine effectiveness of shooting down Russian drones today is close to zero. The reason is simple. Russian drones today are not easy to be jammed or shot down. I've reported it in my previous videos before that when you look at the Russian Gerald 2, Gerald 3, they all serve a different purpose. The Gerald 2 move at a very low altitude, very slow, and the reason for them doing that is to invade radar. Detecting them is very difficult, to detect. And the Gerald 3 drones fly at a very fast pace, and chasing them with other drones or air defense measures is not easy. So the Russians have been able to advance their missile systems and drone system, to a point whereby shooting them down today is not even easy. Even if you detect them, they can even maneuver mid-air like hypersonic missiles, making them difficult to jam or shoot down. I've reported this several times on this platform. Your opinion is very, very important to me. What do you think? Let me know down in the comment section. Thank you guys once again for your endless support. Shalom. See you guys in the next episode.